Now it's time for the last word with Lawrence O'Donnell. Good evening, Lawrence.
Good evening, Rachel. And what we're witnessing tonight is the loss of a right, the loss of a constitutional right. And that is something that you and I have never borne witness to in our lives. If you pointed out, if you're 50 years old or younger in this country, if you're a woman 50 years old or younger in this country, you've had a right throughout your life to abortion services, a constitutional right to that decision. That is what is being taken away here, a constitutional right.
And I will just say, in terms of the real world impact on women's lives, Congressman Jamie Raskin raised a really good point about the reasoning in this opinion, which again is a draft opinion. But the way that this is written, it undoes a woman's right to decide whether or not she's going to carry a pregnancy to term. But this also absolutely creates the circumstance in which it is possible for them to undermine, to overturn a related ruling called Griswold, which is about the right of people to have access to contraception, even if certain state legislatures decide that contraception is evil, or that we want to call contraception abortion, or we want to otherwise make it unavailable to people. It's a straight line from this ruling not only to banning abortion instantly and potentially nationally, but to also preventing Americans from accessing birth control in a ruling that is argued along the same lines as the established precedents that are struck down in this opinion. And it's just it's a fundamentally different world if this happens.
And included in this fundamentally different world is what the other part of what we're experiencing tonight is minority government, minority ruled government. And the Supreme Court is the most incredible exemplar of that. You have these judges appointed to the Supreme Court by two presidents who did not win the most votes in their presidential election. George W. Bush appointed the justice who wrote this opinion. He did not win the most votes in his presidential election, but he won the Electoral College. And then you have Donald Trump appointing three of these deciding justices. He did not come close to winning the most votes, but he got the presidency in this country because of this capacity for minority rule in our government, which is what the United States Senate is about every day of every year. More people vote for Democrats for the United States Senate, but Republicans end up either in control of it with fewer people voting for them for those seats, or, as we see now, in a 50-50 position. This is a minority-controlled government. This is the product of that.
It also raises the question as to how the court is perceived. I mean, the reason that stare decisis is something that, it's not maybe what you learn day one of kid law school, but it's maybe day two, is that part of the legitimacy of the court is that the court compounds the idea of the legitimacy of the rule of law by respecting past precedent. And to have thrown out sort of established super precedents in Casey and in Roe here, the way this opinion is this draft opinion is written, is to say that there is nothing that any court has previously done. There's nothing that any Supreme Court has previously arrived at that deserves respect. And even with, as you say, justices who are appointed by presidents who didn't win the popular vote, and in one case by a president who had already been impeached, it doesn't matter, because once you've got power, you can use it to wreck everything, because stare decisis doesn't exist, and whatever we say has to go goes. And if we've got the power to do it, we're going to do it. And how are you going to respond? It's a different. It's a challenge on the legitimacy and credibility claims of the court that implies that that battle is over, that they're no longer fighting that. They're no longer trying to appeal to people, respecting them for their work.
And let's consider what this Republican-controlled court does not respect. They do not respect the, in effect, Republican-controlled court that wrote Roe versus Wade. It was a 7-2 decision 49 years ago, and five of the deciding justices in favor of Roe versus Wade were Republican-appointed Supreme Court justices. And in the last week or so, there's been a very intense discussion, especially in the world of Twitter, about how much the Democratic Party has moved to the left in recent years, or how much the Republican Party has moved to the right. There is no better demonstration about the extreme direction toward the right that the Republican Party has moved when you look at the 5 Republican-appointed justices in 1973 who voted for Roe versus Wade in a total of 7 justices. And then you see these 5 tonight, possibly 6 in the end, but 5 as of tonight, voting to repeal it, completely repeal it, and insulting as much as they possibly can the justices who decided it.
Yeah. And also, I mean, just the 30,000-foot view. I mean, it's 2022 and America's going to outlaw abortion. Mm-hmm. Mexico just legalized it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a way in which the fast retrograde politics of the new right puts us on a very different timeline than the way that we think of ourselves as a mature democracy. But, you know, this is a decision. I think the repercussions in terms of how this reporting happened and how this draft came to light, we've only started to understand the basic implications of that and the kind of radicalism that you're describing. But what this means for women in the very short term will not be theoretical. This will be a very practical thing, and this will change the lives of women of every station, but particularly women without resources. You know, marginalized women and women who are poor and can't work around the law in a case like this. This will fundamentally change American women's lives this year, this generation, and permanently, because decisions that are forced by the government around whether or not a woman gives birth are something that resonates for your entire life and for generations in terms of your opportunities. And that harm will start today.